the middle-aged Bodcast. Getting older, but having some laughs.
Welcome to the middle-aged Bodcast with me, Raging Rich.
And me, T.A. Shelano.
And T.A., this is the third episode of the season. We decided that we'd do a little bit of a focus on mental health, and there's a few things I certainly want to talk about here on this episode.
Yes, obviously mental health has been a theme that we have talked about quite a bit on the podcast over the seasons, Rich. We've had some great guest episodes as well. I mean, going back to season 1, we had Laura. In season 2, we spoke to Mel from Men Against Mountains movement. And then in season 3, we obviously spoke to fellow author Alan Rose, and a mental health advocate for Andy's Man Club. And then obviously in season 4, we talked to Carolyn Dreyer, a guest from sort of America, about her experiences. So it's certainly been a topic we've covered quite a lot. And I know you and I have touched on it in episodes as well. And I know that you wanted to obviously do a more focused episode with just you and I on this.
Yeah, well, part of the reason for that, and something I think we've kind of alluded to it on and off in episodes, but probably never really gotten into it that much, is I've had a few challenges this year. Well, I've had a few challenges for the last few years, really, but this year in particular. And actually, I had about 2 months off work this year with sort of mental health challenges, and made a lot of changes in my life because of it. I've done a lot of things to kind of get around that, and I have gone back to work quite recently, just sort of around the time of recording. But yeah, it's been a really interesting time, feeling lots of stress, and a lot of that, by the way, I just want to point out, is stress I've put upon myself, probably, as well as stress from external factors. But yeah, it's been a really tough time. And one of the things that has sort of really helped me to kind of put things in perspective and to manage my mental health a little bit is attending Andy's Man Club. You mentioned that earlier when we referenced Alan Rose, who, so Alan is he is a facilitator for an Andy's Man Club, and Andy's Man Club is a charity that basically every Monday night opens its doors. It's a charity. It holds sessions at various locations throughout the UK for men over the age of 18 to go and discuss any issues that they are facing. And yeah, it's been really important for me, and something really, really helpful for me in sort of my mental health journey and trying to help me figure out things. So yeah, one of the rules, of course, is you cannot take what's spoken about in the sessions outside. So we're not going to be talking about anything that's spoken about in the sessions, but they have a bit of a format to the sessions that I thought would be really good for us to maybe talk about and kind of use to kind of do a bit of a check-in, really. I thought this is something we could maybe make a regular thing and kind of apply their framework to it. And I always think that it's quite a good sort of way of starting things off. But I'll sort of just talk a bit about going there for the first time, because it was a strange thing. So just sort of mentioned with work, I had some time off work, and I actually went back a bit too early, and I had a bit of a relapse of things when I went back. I ended up having to leave the office and go back home, and I was just really emotional, not really sure what to do. And then I thought about, actually going to Andy's Man Club might be a good way of sort of dealing with things I'm going through and trying to help me and getting advice. And also just hearing other people's stories, you learn you're not alone, and you learn that there's a lot of other people that are going through their own issues in life, and it's hopefully you can help them as well as you getting help from the people in the group. So the first time that I went to the session, it was obviously a little bit nicer in the weather. It was a bit warmer, so I had a little walk down to my local session. And it is basically when you get there, outside are the facilitators. They're all standing outside. They will greet you. They will sort of welcome you into the session, and they will tell you what's going on. So there's free tea and coffee and biscuits usually for everyone attending, and you are told if you sit at a certain point in the room, you won't have to speak till a little bit further on. There's no pressure to speak as well. I want to just point that out. So there is no pressure to speak at all if you don't want to, but they'll kind of say to new attendees, if you sit at a certain point in the room, you won't actually answer any of the questions till a bit later on. So you kind of get an idea of what it's about. And the facilitators will then start the meeting. They have like a football that they pass around. It's an Andy's Man Club branded football. And essentially, if you're holding that ball, you can talk. It's your time to talk and your time to share. They'll do an introduction. So the facilitators introduce themselves, the attendees introduce themselves, and then they will ask 3 questions. So the first question that they ask is, how's your week been? And then they'll go around the room and everybody will answer that. The next question is, what's one positive from your week? And again, everybody goes through and talks about that. And then the third question is there anything that you want to get off your chest? And this is sort of the opportunity for people then to talk about things that are going on in their lives, and for people to offer up any help if they want to. So people can respond if they want to. They can raise their hand and sort of offer any advice they want to as well. So that's kind of the format of the group. And then they'll have a little bit of a break again. And then at the end, they actually ask 2 questions again, but they're a little bit more lighter. And they're random every week. So we could probably make a couple up and have a go at sort of doing a couple of lighter questions. I know we want to try and do sort of the format of an Andy's Man Club session as a bit of a check-in, if that sounds good with you, T.A.
Yeah, that sounds good. I suppose on that point, Rich, how has your week been?
It's been all right. Yeah, it's not been too bad. Got to have a trip to London, which was very interesting. That actually happened through work. So I got to go and see go to sort of an event in London, which was something that I haven't really had the opportunity to do a lot of with where I'm working now. Where I used to work, we had the odd trip away, but yeah, that was really good. So got to have a bit of a trip, and as we say, a bit of fun on the old London Underground, because I have not been on the tube for about 50 years or something like that. And we will at some point later in the episode get to something that T.A. did tell me that made me laugh, because I could have very easily ended up going the wrong way many a time when I have been on the tube. So yeah.
Well, I was just going to say at that point, the story about when you were telling me about this that did make me slightly laugh was you saying that you had the confusion of obviously training to Euston, but then you've got to get a tube from Euston Square. And, you know, you don't know what's what. And I'm like, but you're the king of IT. Just purely get on and Google or whatever other format you could use to find the short walk from Euston to Euston Square.
You are right, T.A., and it's something I should have done. But I think the problem really was the fact I've only been back at work a couple of weeks and I'm still a little bit getting back into the swing of things. And this was also a really late in the day thing to get set up. But yeah, and that's sort of been my week. So doing that, and obviously we're recording on a weekend. We haven't really had the full weekend yet. But yeah, that was sort of the big thing of the week, and it's been not been too bad a week, really.
Well, it could be the colloquial week, I suppose, as well. It doesn't have to be the standard calendar 7 days. We could just talk kind of almost like a last 7 days as well, can't you, I guess?
Yeah, but yeah, it's been a decent one, as I say, and got a few things planned for the weekend, which I'm looking forward to. So yeah, it should be hopefully being something to take into the next week as a good experience. How about yourself?
Well, Mrs. Shelano, as you know, went on holiday with her mother and some other relatives. And so it was pressure off for a little bit, you know, bit of peace and quiet, Rich, bit of space, bit of party. No, I wasn't partying, but, you know, it was just nice to have a little bit of space. And then obviously she was coming back, which I was then collecting them from the airport the other day. And so that was again back into the, I better clean the house up a little bit scenario, as I'm sure you can appreciate. Suddenly found myself, you know, trying to clean things, dust things, vacuum things. And, you know, as of course I should, I'm not saying I shouldn't, but, you know, my sort of initial approach of, well, I got some time to myself become, oh, she's back in a couple of days. I need to sort this place out. So she's back, and obviously they had a lovely time. And yeah, so it's kind of been all around that, really. I suppose obviously I've had things, you know, to do work-wise, obviously things going on with the second book and all that sort of stuff. And like you, I've also had to go to London for something slightly less enjoyable than you, but was still pretty good. Yeah, so as weeks go, I would say it had been have been all right.
So the second question is, what's one positive from your week? And I have to say, you mentioned you going to London there. We actually both went to London on the same day randomly, and we did manage to meet up when we got back home and go to the pub. So that's my positive for the week, because we got to have a little midweek trip to the pub, a bit of a decompress. And it was good to sort of catch up and talk about things that have been going on, and obviously have a bit of a...
Well, it's funny you mentioned, obviously, we did go on the same day on separate trains and all the rest of it. But my positive from the week is would obviously be part of that day. But the other thing around it was my train journey to London. I had a American tourist sat opposite me, who asked lots of questions, train stations and London and all sorts of things. So we were actually having quite a good chat just on the way down. And obviously people don't speak to anybody anymore. And I think going into the theme of this, that's often one of the problems, is everyone's just kind of stuck in devices and just quite non-social and quite ignorant to how society perhaps used to be in that sense. So actually having this chat on the train down was quite entertaining. And then there was a woman sat next to me who was sort of an older woman. And then she started to get some technical problems with her phone, and she was trying to get her ticket out on her app and all this. And it was then the three of us were just having this conversation, and it's three people with absolutely no common grounding really whatsoever. And it was just kind of entertaining, and it made the journey actually seem, really more pleasant than just sitting there, looking at your phone or, whatnot. It was great. It was actually quite fun. I started recommending the odd tourist thing to do in London, things me and Mrs. Shelano had obviously done not all that long ago and whatnot. So I quite enjoyed that. And you may never see those people again, most likely, but it was just a fun time on the train.
That's great, T.A. I think maybe it's time to go on to the sort of the third question then, and have a bit of a chat about that. So is there anything that you want to get off your chest? So for me, one of the key things obviously is not saying too much personal stuff, because we don't want to get too deep into that. But I will say one of the things that I found, and this is more just like a bit of a general rant, I have two little things that happened this week, and I just found them both a little bit, come on, things surely can be better than this. One is when I got back from London, the actual journey to London and the journey back from London to Birmingham was absolutely brilliant. Got a great seat on the train, charger ports for my phone, so I got to charge my phone up on the way back as well, which was really helpful. But we'd arranged to meet up, obviously, then at this point, and getting back home to meet you, waiting for a bus so I could actually get back home and put my stuff away and then come and meet you. And you obviously get the bus a bit more from Birmingham than I do, with me not working that way at the moment. I just found it really frustrating. Every single bus that at the stop goes where the bus that we'd need would be, tells you how many minutes away it is, except for the bus I needed, which would give you a specific time it was going to turn up. Now, one of them, it said was coming in about 3 minutes, and I actually think I'd missed that one because I'm pretty sure I'd seen it go past. But I must admit, not got the best vision in my old age, in my mid-age, so I couldn't completely see if it was the right number or not. But yeah, I think that was pretty much that bus. Wait about 15 odd minutes. Next bus, not there, doesn't rock up. But I'm thinking, come on, this is stupid. I ended up getting a bus so I could just meet you at the pub rather than coming back here, dropping off my stuff. So I had to bring it with me, which was a little bit awkward. So that was a little bit annoying. And I do think there needs to be a bit more consistency with public transport. We're constantly being told to use it. And obviously I have no choice in the matter. I don't drive, and it's something I do want to rectify at some point. Having tried when obviously I was a bit younger and not really getting anywhere with it, and then not pursuing it for quite some time. But I do find, the buses, why can't it be consistent? Why can't they give us time for everything, or at least it's going to be here? And also, if it doesn't turn up when it's supposed to turn up, and I get sometimes they can break down, there needs to be some kind of thing that can tell you on that screen that's there. It shouldn't be you've got to get a phone out and you've got to look on an app and you've got to look for diversions. They should be telling you on that board what's going on.
Well, I'm afraid I'm going to have to sort of intervene slightly here. There's two things. I think in terms of the driving scenario, we're getting pretty close now to the release of driverless cars, so I wouldn't worry as much about passing your test as when you were younger. There's number one. And number two, you're the king of IT. So why you haven't pitched in something where you can technically update this board lifetime when the bus is stuck in traffic and is going to be delayed into Birmingham city centre, you wouldn't even need to be, going to work anymore. You'd have made £100 million from selling some Uber app thing, not Uber, sorry, that's a separate thing. Some amazing app that, kind of literally times from the driver's foot on the pedal into the sort of Wi-Fi zone. You can tell how technical I am here, and update the board lifetime. The other thing is, of course, as Mr. Shelano and I have often talked about where you were getting the bus. There's often a lot of buses on other routes that are seem more regular. And that's because we live in the place that time forgot, it seems. So we don't have as many services seemingly coming this way as some of the other destinations.
I'm glad you said that, because when I call it the place that time forgot, I always get told off by people. So I'm glad you're the one that said it.
Well, I'm quoting it from you. You've given me you call it that. I think you call it, like the town that time forgot. I call it the place that time forgot now. And you've inspired that. So thank you. But yeah, there you go.
Oh dear, no worries. Well, the only other thing, and again, I know these are a little bit trivial, but I'm trying to keep it a little bit light with terms of the podcast, and also just trying to make sure that we don't say anything too personal that may be a little bit, really what the term is, but nothing that's going to get us in any sort of issues or anything like that. Not that we've done anything bad, but you know what I mean.
I was surprised going with this.
But you know what I mean by that. And
oversharing.
Yeah, oversharing a little bit. And it's good sometimes to keep that. Although we chat a lot and we have some jovial conversations, I think certain stuff, it's good to keep a little bit of a barrier up sometimes on the podcast. But yeah, the other thing I was going to just say that I found quite funny. So funny, just frustrating and a little bit for me. And it wasn't really that frustrating at all. So I went to Ruth's for my tea on Thursday. I go on a Thursday and I get the tram to go and see her, and always been great getting on the tram and stuff. But she's changed her working hours a little bit now. So I was finishing up work and I thought, well, I've done my hours now. I don't really want to work an extra hour and then go, what can I do? And I thought, well, I'll go and get a drink. And I thought, well, there's a pub by the tram station. So I'll go and get a drink. I thought, great. Okay. I'll go and just get in the queue and then I can make my way. So I leave. I walk down towards the train station where the tram stop is, and I go into this particular pub, and there's one person behind the bar, and this is 5 p.m. mine. It's a little bit after 5 p.m. It's about 5:15, and there's this queue of people, and the barman, blatantly there's an issue behind the bar, so he can't actually do anything. He's waiting to sort that out. And I'm just standing there like, what's going on? This is ridiculous. It's trying to catch the attention of someone who's serving so they can kind of look after the bar while he goes and sorts something out. I think the barrel must have gone or something. I'm just standing there and I'm going, oh, this is ridiculous. By the time I get served and I've sat, I'll be drinking my pint. Ruth will be texting me saying she's finished work, and I'll be going anyway. So I will say what ended up being better was I walked to the train station and I actually went into the shop that's there and I bought my lunch for the next day. So that was quite useful. I got myself some stuff to make for my lunch the next day. So there was a bit of a positive in that. So I didn't end up going to the pub, but then that's probably a good thing because I went to the pub with you earlier in the week.
Well, I was going to say, I thought for a minute there you were veering back into a bit of deja vu. And we were going back to the flat lager episode from season 4 with problems with retail establishments, and whatnot. If it was the change in the barrel this time, because I think in that episode you were talking about it was where the gas was flat on your pipe.
Oh, yes.
Let's not go back to that episode. But yeah, I suppose one of the things I was going to sort of think about in terms of from my perspective was to say to you as well, it's how useful in terms of this, you talk about getting stuff off your chest, obviously being one of the questions. How much do you reflect on doing this podcast and obviously having interviewed guests and finding actually there's a form of getting things off your chest even by doing this sometimes? That's my kind of reflection at times, especially if things are not great from a personal perspective. When you've got an episode to come and do, whether it's with a guest or not, it puts you into a different zone because it gives you then something to come and focus on. And certainly going back to probably season 2, when I was having some very unpleasant times, to be honest. I remember the one day, I can't remember if we've really talked about this massively on the podcast, but I didn't want to get up on the Saturday morning. I had a terrible week, but we were interviewing, it was the episode with Amy P, actually. And I just remember going, I've got to get up. We've got a guest. I can't let Rich down. I can't let the podcast down. I can't let Amy P down. And it's interesting, you come in and kind of then you go and do something else that kind of almost helps you for a bit. How do you find, is this something you reflect on it more and through your recent experiences, having done episodes particularly on mental health and things like that?
I found it really helpful actually. Doing season 4 was a big help, because while I was editing a lot of season 4, I got to listen back to some of the stuff that was on there, and it was really helpful just to kind of reflect upon some of those conversations that we'd had and some of the things that are going on. I think that it's good to have the outlet that we have with the podcast. It's certainly been something that has helped over time. And I think it's probably helped me, speaking to, say, Mel in season 2 and even in season 3 when we spoke to Alan Rose, I think they did give me a bit of help with getting through potentially maybe some issues a bit earlier on that I hadn't that it was probably starting to escalate a little bit. And I will admit, I've probably not been the best at stopping them from escalating either. But yeah, I think that it has been a big help doing stuff here on the podcast and speaking to different people and the different guests. I have found it really helpful.
We can all be our own worst enemies at times. I think it sort of leads you in a little bit to the things that you can do positively that will help you. I won't talk about it too much in this episode because I know we're going to cover it, I think, later in the season. But things like exercise, routines, positive things to do, and those things that you can sort of build into your week or into your schedule that will have a positive impact, whether it's on physical or mental health or by default. So I think that's another thing where it's that individual bit of taking a step back sometimes, isn't it? And being able to look at the things that you can change. I think that's probably one of the key reflections, because there are so many things that affect you in your life that you can't change sometimes, external factors. Well, what are the things that you could take a step back and go, actually, what could I do differently, that will make a difference, whether it's, to your own life, I suppose, or sometimes with others as well. And that's probably one of the reflections around it that I would have. And I would certainly would like to obviously cover that probably later in the season around, but to be physical exercise and stuff.
Well, one of the things actually you mentioned in that, and Ruth actually brought it up the other day when I was around there. We were talking, she cooked this lovely meal and I was then talking about things I wanted to make, and she went, it's really good to hear you talking about things you want to cook that you haven't tried and trying new things. And I was going, actually, that's really true. I'd never used to think like that. Whereas now I'm looking at things going, I could give that a go. I could try it out. And the cooking has certainly been something I've started to enjoy doing, which is really strange. And I think does help my mental health a little bit. And I think that's a great thing to give you a bit of just things to think about, things to prepare. And I've got a few ideas of things, and we're obviously talking about doing another cooking special for this season, and I'm thinking, yeah, I've got some plans potentially for that. I've been researching some stuff actually. So yeah, it has been quite helpful in that respect.
Yeah, that'll be looking forward to that, especially now we're sort of moving more in towards the sort of winter time, aren't we? So some sort of winter warmer cooking. I like the idea of that as a special, and it is definitely something that you've massively advanced on during the time of the podcast. So yeah, that's great.
And I think what we can probably do now, if you want to, is there anything you want to kind of do for your third question, or are you for the getting off your chest?
I think I kind of did.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So what they do then is they have a bit of a break, they'll have a cuppa, and then they ask sort of two more fun questions. But we've kind of touched there upon the sort of the things that can help you with your mental health that I think is really good. Listen, guys, if you're listening, anyone out there, it doesn't matter if you're struggling in any way, there's lots of resources out there, and I think we'd be very remiss if we didn't bring them up. Obviously, there's Andy's Man Club. That's not going to be for everyone, and there's not some everywhere. I will say this, TA, something that's really surprised me, there isn't an Andy's Man Club in Birmingham, and I find that crazy that there's not one there. They obviously rely upon volunteers and the facilitators to bring that into places, and it is very interesting that there isn't one in Birmingham. I think there's always the opportunity for that to happen, of course, and there's a location would need to be found regularly for it to take place. But yeah, lots of resources out there for people, and I think that's the thing. If you can find an Andy's Man Club, a men walking and talking group, or any kind of support like that, we'll put some links in the socials. We'll put some links out there on our socials. We'll put some links out there on the episode description as well. But yeah, it's something that I think we don't talk about enough. I think it's something that having a little check-in, and I think it's something we should maybe do each season, is have a little bit of a session where we just sort of have a bit of a chat about things, even if it's not a completely pure mental health focus. But I do think to anyone out there who is struggling, like, do make sure you reach out to people. I did it and it's really helped me. It's been a massive change in my life, being able to do that and getting to speak to people and get it's a bit of a routine as well. It just gives you something to start your week off on a real positive, and I think it's something that everybody really needs. It's something that they can just use as a positive influence on their life. I'm not saying this is going to be for everyone. It works for me, but certainly find something out there that works for you. If it's talking to one person or talking in a group, whether it's doing an activity at the same time, try and find that. And as I say, we will put some links out there for anyone listening.
Yeah, I mean, I think the important thing to say to anyone listening as well is that even when things obviously do feel particularly difficult, there is always somebody willing to listen. And that's the important thing, is obviously not to give up, and to, is definitely to keep going. And like some of the resources you've mentioned are good examples of that, but obviously, there are many, many others, but just the importance of speaking to somebody if you really are struggling.
Yeah, exactly. And like we say, Andy's Man Club, Men Walking and Talking, that's out there. There are other charities. There's Samaritans, there's Mind. Make sure you reach out to somebody. Make sure you're talking to somebody. You are important. No matter what you may think, you are important. And you need to remember that sometimes. And I think a lot of people forget that. And I think it's very timely with Ricky Hatton speaking about that, and he obviously had his struggles and was a big advocate for mental health support. And please, anyone out there, if you are struggling, if there's any kind of things that you're thinking, any dark thoughts that you have, make sure that you are reaching out to somebody. Make sure that you seek some support. I really do promise you, it is not as intimidating as you think to go to something like an Andy's Man Club. It will put you at ease. Anyone that you can speak to, they are really supportive, and you will get support, and you will feel, hopefully, like you are important and you are loved and cared for. And I just hope anyone out there that's struggling gets the help that they need.
Well said.
Well, thank you very much, podcasters. This has obviously been a little bit of a different episode. I think we should probably just go into a bit of a lighter kind of thing to close out the episode. So they do ask 2 random questions at the end of each Andy's Man Club session. So for me, T.A, the question that I'm going to set, I think we should set one each. So from me, if you could be a character in a movie, who would you be and why? For me, I would love to be Spider-Man in the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie, because Spider-Man is obviously a superhero I'm a big fan of, and I always sort of say I'm a bit like Peter Parker in many ways. Can't climb on walls though. But yeah, I'd love to be Spider-Man in that movie. I think it's a really well shot film, and he gets to have some fun in that film, swinging around New York. That'd be really cool to just be web swinging around.
I don't suppose I can really be shameless and go, well, surely get one of my books made into a movie and be a character in that. Doctor's Hidden Patients, out now. Escape from Battersea Island, coming soon. You put me on a spot with this. I don't know, Rich. In a movie, who would I most want to be? I mean, obviously there was the character that was in the film. So for me, Rich, Mrs. Shelano is going to absolutely kill me for this, but I would have to be Irving Rosenfeld from American Hustle, which is played by Christian Bale, because in that film, the Amy Adams character turns to him and says, I don't know what it is about him. He's overweight. He's losing his hair, but he's his own man. And that's why I like him or something. And during that moment in the cinema watching that, the then Mrs. Shelano to be, she wasn't Mrs. Shelano then, did turn and look at me. And I was like, what? So there you go. She was marrying me, and she declared that that was the epitome of it all. Is I was overweight, losing my hair, which has now gone, still overweight, but obviously getting fitter. But there was something about me. And that was before I'd even written a book or done a podcast. So there you go. So she just knew. So I'm Irving Rosenfeld, American Hustle.
Thank you for that one.
You're blown away by that, aren't you, Rich?
No, I was remembering that because I remember it being said at the time. So T.A, do you want to close off with one more question?
He wants me to come up with.
Yeah, I think so. So another one I thought that we could have is a dream holiday destination that you've not been to before. So for me, to some really great places previously. So I'm trying to just think of things that I've not done. But one of the things that I'd really like to do is go abroad and visit a Christmas market. I think that would be amazing.
Good idea.
You know, like a Frankfurt Christmas market, or I can't really say the Prague Christmas market because I've been to Prague, obviously, in the summer, but something like that, or a Polish Christmas market, like something like that. I'd love to do that and experience that, and sort of just see what it's like in comparison to our Christmas markets. Also, going away at that time of year I've not done. Always going away normally in the summer. So yeah, that'd be my thing that I'd like to do.
Well, I suppose as I've kind of done the whole thing against Mrs. Shelano slightly with question 1, I suppose I'm going to bring her into question 2 in a different way because she never stops nagging me for her dream destination, which remains Japan. So maybe, you never know, in the not too distant future, I might, and if you'll excuse the local phraseology here, Tokyo to Japan, and she'd be loving that. He's shaking his head at me in the studio here. He's like, that's getting edited out. So yeah, so she really likes to go to Japan, and I think that is a part of the world that is fascinating and could be really good. So maybe one day she'll convince me, and if she's listening to this, she'll no doubt mention it again.
Maybe one of the big tech companies in Japan could sponsor an episode so that we could fly you there.
Dear me. Yeah, maybe. Actually, maybe gaming, because you want me to do all this gaming related thing. Maybe you get one of the companies, a lot of the Japanese companies that make the games. Maybe they sponsor us to go over there and do that. How about that?
That could be it. That could definitely be it. Well, thank you very much, podcasters, for listening. As we say, there will be some links out there to any resources that we've mentioned today, but we really hope to. But yeah, we shall catch up with you next week on the Middle Age Podcast. It'll be a guest episode next week. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
Thank you. Goodbye.
One more Middle Age Podcast in your life?
Of course you do. Follow us on social media for behind the scenes stuff, extra larks, and all our latest updates.
We're on Instagram and Threads at Midaged Podcast.
Facebook's easier. Just head to facebook.com/middleagepodcast.
If you're still hanging on to Twitter or X or whatever it's called now, we're at Midaged Podcast.
And if you're on Blue Sky, it's at middleagepodcast.bsky.social.
Or you can swing by our website, middleagepodcast.co.uk.
Give us a follow and stay in the loop.
Cheers for listening.
Two best mates, yeah, they're taking a stand. Rich and T.A, got your health in the hands. Williams, laughs and tales they tell. For beats and nights, the workouts, they're keeping it real. Oh, it's the Middle Age